Hey there, my name is Rigo. I just wanted to talk about this video I saw scrolling through YouTube Shorts. It was a video by Fredo on TV. He reacted to this woman. Here, I'll just show the video.
Offense, but does anybody know, like, what's the point?
As you can see, he reacted to this woman asking, "What is the point?" Meaning, what is the point of life? And then, if you watch the original video by Fredo, he goes on to say, blah blah blah, just be a good person. I don't know the answer, which I think is a perfectly fine answer, especially if he's satisfied with it. Then I don't mean to step on his toes or anything. This response is more just directed straight at the original poster. Um, because I believe that Fredo's answer may be unsatisfactory, especially to people who may not be inclined to believe in the supernatural or the religious side of things. Fredo kind of relies on it at the end, saying he just hopes he can get into heaven, which is still using the supernatural as a emotional crutch, in my opinion. So I'd like to find a way to avoid that and still grant understanding and a comprehensive reasoning as to why we should continue living despite the pain and suffering that we see in our individual lives from a completely secular perspective. So the first thing I'd like to know is that I do see a lot of people struggling with nihilism a lot of the time. This video really touched a chord with me because I used to struggle with these problems all the time. I still struggle with nihilistic thoughts. From day to day, it varies. Today I'm feeling pretty good, but some days it's pretty bad. And even with a good justification, it can still feel like there's really no meaning. But what do we mean by that? Well, meaning is generally like what people desire out of things, what people find enjoyment out of, is what people usually say gives their life meaning. But in order to understand this more accurately, we first have to dissect how we are going to interact with the world and each other. And for that purpose, I would like to first outline a couple facts of science. Firstly, we live in a material universe. We have no means to measure any supernatural phenomenon. Anything that, basically by the definition of natural, if we could see it or interact with it, then it is part of the natural world. We don't have any substantial evidence for things like ghosts, chupacabras, or whatever else have you. We don't have any evidence for that, and in particular, we have no evidence for the existence of a part of the human body which exists after the death of the body, being a soul. We don't have any evidence of the existence of a soul. There's no way to measure it. There is no impact that it has had on verifying the existence of the afterlife. There have been hundreds of people who have had near-death experiences, and they come back and they report that their heaven is the one that they see. But these people are from different religions. There are some that think that they reach prana right as they were about to die. There are some that think that they went to the Christian version of heaven, some that think that they went to the Muslim version of heaven, some that joined their friends in the clouds in some sort of spirituality way. But all of them conflict with each other, and it is much more likely that these experiences are caused by rushing endorphins in a near-death brain before the brain is suddenly saved from death because the body is resuscitated. Given that there's no supernatural phenomenon that we can understand, we must work from the assumption that there is no heaven, there is no afterlife. As soon as you die, it's like a switch flips in your brain. There's no more electrical impulses. Your brain stops being conscious and you cease to be. If that's the case, if our brain is completely physical, then that means that what is driving our experience is the electrical impulses inside of our brain. And if that's the case, then your life is sustained solely by those electrical impulses. Of course, your body plays a huge role in maintaining your brain's ability to fire these electrical impulses. But you, what you would call yourself, your interest, your personality, all of that is contained as a part of the consciousness that is generated by the electrical pulses coursing through your brain. You are a reactive being. You might not recognize it, but every person is. We react to stimuli and our brain synthesizes a response to it, whether that be moving our body out of the way of danger or reacting to the stock market because we see numbers moving around on a screen. It's all reaction. Whatever we think we're doing, where we think we have free agency, it is a reaction to other things that we recognize in the world, or it's a reaction to something going on within our own brain. So given that we are completely reactive and it's all inside of our head, what can we say about life? As soon as your body stops working, you are effectively dead. There's no afterlife. So the only experience that your consciousness will ever have is the one that you have on this earth in your body as you are now. In fact, in a sense, you only ever exist as you are exactly right now. And since you're conscious, you're aware of the fact that time is moving forward. But when you're unconscious, you don't notice time moving forward. Time just passes without you. So death is much like sleep where you don't wake up from it, right? Like you completely forget what happens during your sleep. Sometimes you dream, sometimes you remember your dreams. But for the most part, you fall asleep, you completely forget what happens. Your brain just enters in autopilot mode and you effectively die and wake up resuscitating yourself in about 6 to 8 hours. The thing that you're calling yourself you, the person that you call your own name, that is a being which is primarily defined by its consciousness. You are egocentric. I imagine if you are listening to this, you can relate at least somewhat to what I am saying. You believe the most important and fundamental part of you is your brain, not your body, your brain. I would caution against that. Make sure to once in a while remind yourself, I am also my body. These kinds of self-awareness rituals, meditation, what have you, these mindfulness notes vastly improve your lifestyle. You will be, if you are aware of your body, you are less likely to do things that will bring harm to it. You are more likely to drive safe. You are more likely to not smoke. You are more likely to do a variety of things that will prevent you from dying soon, which allows you to live a longer life. So I highly recommend the first step people take is stop thinking of yourself as solely your personality. You also have a body. Never forget that. The second thing I would like to say is, since you stop being once you die, everything that goes on inside of your brain is the only thing that you will experience. If that's the case, the first thing you should do is try and be happy. So, how do we enjoy life? We learn to control ourselves. Firstly, this is something that not a lot of people learn to do at will. But I believe that with enough self-conviction and not restraint, but let's just say conviction for now. With enough conviction, you will be able to fool yourself into believing anything that you want to fool yourself into. This is not me saying that you can trick yourself literally and then you're so stupid that you fall for your tricks. Instead, it's in a way, it's the fake it till you make it mentality, but with being happy. You can, for example, when you are learning to ride a bike, once you've figured out how to ride a bike, it's natural to you, right? You have to focus on learning how to ride the bike, but eventually something clicks. You're able to stay upright for 10 miles. Hell, I can even ride my bike without holding onto my handlebars, and I can go up hills doing that, so long as I have enough speed at the start. It is something you can learn. It is a skill you can learn. And I believe that being able to fool yourself or convince yourself that you enjoy things that you might have originally not enjoyed, you can convince yourself of these things effectively to the point where you do start to actually enjoy them. You can do this. I am living proof of this. I have used this technique to vastly improve my quality of life through increasing contentedness. I think it is a very simple technique. I implore all of you to just continually try it because eventually it will work. It takes a lot of practice the first times that you try and do it, but you can control yourself. Think about it. Have you ever been in an awkward situation where you really want to say something, but you know that you shouldn't, so you kept your mouth down? The amount of restraint that it takes to do that is reflective of how easy I think it is for people to be able to kind of develop this self-control. If you are able to hold back from saying something and you know that you're right or whatever, but like you're going to let the person talk, if you can hold back, you are a better person than the person talking, at least in that moment, because you are allowing them to express their ideas. And if you have to use that as justification for yourself, then that's okay, but you're still managing to hold back. You're still controlling yourself emotionally. You have something that you want to do, and you are stopping yourself from doing it because you understand that there might be adverse consequences to it. The same thing goes for nihilistic and depressive behavior. If you are going to do something, or you have to do something, you had better enjoy it. This comes as a big shock to people when I explain why I have good grades in school, but it's simply because I have convinced myself that I enjoy school. Once you convince yourself that you enjoy something, you are much more likely to do it. I have taken up hobbies as boring as math and language learning. A lot of people think that kind of stuff is lame, and some people think it's cool. I like to hang out with the people that think it's cool. Part of it is that I surrounded myself with the right people, but part of it is that I simply told myself that learning is cool and that learning will help me be a better person, and I want to be a better person. Do I actually want to be a better person? That might be something I told myself too. It might be one of these fake convictions. But for the most part, I genuinely believe that I want to be a better person. And for that reason, I go to school. And when I'm at school, I try to enjoy it because I have to spend my time there whether I like it or not. If I'm going to be miserable the entire time, then I will be distracted the entire time. Instead, I focus on my studies. How do I do this? Because I tell myself that I like to study. This can be done for pretty much anything that you can find in your own personal life. I highly recommend you try doing this as soon as possible. Tell yourself whatever it is that you've been wanting to do. You tell yourself that you can do it and that you will enjoy it. Remind yourself that you will enjoy doing it. And then do it. This is not me trying to promote you engaging in self-destructive behaviors. If you're going to use this as justification to smoke, I highly recommend against doing that. There are more consequences than benefits. But if you are genuinely addicted to cigarettes and you are going to die in 15 years either way, I am not one to judge you if you are going to continue smoking. I just highly suggest that you don't ever get involved with smoking, or if you have and you're only a couple inches deep in the pool, get out while you still can. Everything that you can do to improve your longevity and your mental fortitude throughout life will improve your experience in this one time that you have a body. Because after your death, you no longer continue to live. I know that's an obvious thing to say, but people forget it. They think that they're going to go to heaven after they die. They aren't, or at least there's no evidence that they will go to heaven. They simply place their faith in it. If that's what they need to be happy, I am not one to judge. I completely agree with them that they are going to be happier believing that heaven will offer them salvation later on and forgive them for all of the bad things that they may have done. Although I also see it as a bit twisted that the religion that they believe in is the thing that drives them to feel guilty throughout their entire lives. So while I respect people who believe in heaven and believe that it will offer them happiness throughout their entire life, I do not believe that it is a sufficient answer for why we should continue living our lives, because these types of promises which cannot be backed up are the types of promises that lead people with nihilistic and possibly anti-religious tendencies to feel hopeless. It ends up providing them with a dichotomy where they feel that, oh, since I no longer have religion, I'm no longer going to heaven, because they still secretly believe in religion. A lot of the time, at least. And even when they don't believe, they are simply driven to the conclusion that, oh, there must be no heaven. That means once I die, it's it. That means there's no point. After I die, nothing matters. Yes, that is true. Nothing matters after you die. To you. But that doesn't mean you should die as soon as possible. You only get one life. Why would you want to die as soon as possible? If you only get one life, you recognize that when you say that there's no heaven. So when you recognize that, you have to then conclude that you should die as soon as possible, so then you can not go to heaven as soon as possible. No. What you do instead is you live a happy and productive life with whatever circumstances you find yourself in. You try to be as happy as possible. And with that, you try and enjoy the experience that you're given. You have been born into this world for one reason and one reason only, and that is to live and then to die. Those are the only things that you are guaranteed at this point in your life, is that you will continue living until you die. Everyone focuses on death because it is the end of the experience, but I think that that is misguided. Death is inevitable. That doesn't mean that you have to fear it. You have to understand that it will come for you, and then you have to move on. One big thing that I see a lot of students doing, at my school at least, is that they tend to lack identity. They have cultures that they come from. They have names. They have their majors. They have some interests, but they don't really know who they are. I've spoken with a couple older people at community college too, and they seem to understand a bit better what I'm talking about. But you are not your name. You are not your major. You are not even your interests. You are your body and your mind. Whatever your personality is doing, however your brain is reacting to the sights and sounds that it sees, that is you. That is you. You are nothing else. You are nothing more. You are nothing less. You are your body and your mind. You can control your mind, like I said. And learning to control yourself is essential, but it's not everything. You also have innate things that you enjoy or don't enjoy, based off of your childhood, your experiences growing up, whatever. For example, me, what do I live for? Well, I enjoy eating. I enjoy sleeping. I enjoy socializing, hobbies. I have goals. I'm interested in self-improvement. I enjoy math. I enjoy logic. I enjoy watching YouTube. Maybe a bit too much. But why? It's just a part of me. Everyone has things like that. Maybe it's something as simple as you enjoy speaking with your grandma, or you love your parents. Whatever it is, you have things that you live for. Everyone has them, and if you don't, you are kidding yourself or you are dramatizing. There are definitely a couple things that you live for. And sometimes you might conflate things that you live for with things that continue to let you live, such as eating. That might be a controversial one. People might say, oh no, you don't live to eat. You eat to live, right? I would, on the contrary, I would say hunger is one of the strangest experiences that people can experience. It is terrible. Famine is terrible. But there is nothing that brings me greater joy than eating when I am hungry. There is nothing that brings me greater joy than sleeping when I am tired. There is nothing that brings me greater joy than talking to people when I am lonely. There is nothing that brings me greater joy than achieving my goals. It's all about balance. You don't just do one thing your entire life. These people experience nihilism partially because they're growing up in an age where all they have to do with their free time is scroll on Instagram, scroll on TikTok, scroll on YouTube, erase themselves, rewrite themselves as solely the content that they constantly intake. That's not healthy. You have to have things that you enjoy doing and you actively participate in, and you don't just passively experience. The last thing people need to do is they need to accept certain things. You need to accept that you're going to die. It will happen. Everyone dies. Perhaps you might live 100 years. Perhaps you might live 1,000 or 1,000,000. Perhaps you might live the entire rest of the length of the universe. But you will die, because the universe is finite. Coming to accept death is very difficult for a lot of people. Once you accept death, you can live life as your best self. It's strange. Once you accept yourself as a mortal, you are able to experience the pleasures of a mortal. I know it's sinful or whatever you might be saying. You're bogged down by religion if you're saying that. I'm sorry. I understand that you have a different worldview, but you are using religion as a way to prevent yourself from doing certain things, which otherwise are only going to be possible to experience in your one lifetime. Yes, you may see religion as, oh, I'm using it to avoid temptation. But the temptation itself is an idea proposed by the religion to frame the action that you are being tempted towards as bad. I believe drugs are something that temptation is a good model for to avoid because they negatively impact your life and life expectancy. But things like avoiding sex because of a book, now that is truly sad. And that is where I believe that the holy books are genuinely harmful to human lifestyles because people feel guilty about having sex because they believe in a certain religion, or they feel guilty about doing any sort of thing. That is a huge spider. Wow. But no, religion is basically just a way for people to organize themselves into a social group, and it has now formed into a sort of dichotomy between believers and non-believers, where the non-believers are under the assumption that they are living a more holy life. And I don't believe that that is conducive towards leading a happy life. Another thing with acceptance, not just that you will die, but you only have one opportunity to live, right? You may believe in a heaven, that's fine, but under the assumption that there is no heaven, you only have this one life. You have to accept that. Once you accept that you only have one life, you will be able to actually live your life, not just experience it. You always have another chance. You have to accept that fact. There will never be an irreparable damage that you do that cannot be fixed by your own actions. Sometimes, yes, you will. I mean, in very rare cases, there are people who do things that are outweighed to the possibility of their repair. Like, for example, committing a genocide. You can't really come back from that. But in day-to-day life, if you fail at your own goals, the only reason you failed is because your convictions weren't strong enough. If you come back with stronger convictions than whatever is causing you to fail, then you will succeed. I heard that there's a book called The Easy Way to Quit Smoking. That kind of book is a good example of what I'm talking about. There's always a way for you to achieve the things that you want. And a lot of people have seen success reading that book because it removes all of the excuses that you could possibly have. You strengthen your convictions through realizing, hey, whatever it is that I'm thinking will help when I smoke this cigarette, it's not actually going to help. Whatever I'm thinking, it won't work. Once you have that kind of understanding of yourself, and you can do this with nihilistic thoughts too. You can say, oh man, I'm having nihilistic thoughts. These aren't going to help. You can just cut them out. Once you recognize them, if you have the proper framework to understand that they are not productive. And this gets to the last thing. I genuinely believe, and this might sound harsh, and trust me, this is coming from someone who struggles with depression a lot. But I think everyone can enjoy life, and they just don't want to when they're not happy. Perhaps this comes back to what I was talking about, where you need variety in life, like the hunger and then eating thing. If things are going well for you, then you might feel the need to feel sad just so then you can even things out. And then this causes a bad sort of chain of reactions where now you're used to having negative emotions towards positive outcomes. I believe that's how depression might have formed in me. I'm not 100% certain how I came to be depressed. But whatever the case is, the only way that I manage it is by telling myself that I will be a lot happier if I simply don't be depressed. I know it sounds weird. It sounds like a cop-out excuse to say it that way. But it takes years to learn to just say, I'm not going to be sad, because it's not helpful. It takes a lot of time to do it. But you can you can talk yourself out of your depression a lot of the time. Sometimes it comes in and it smacks you like a truck. That's true. But a lot of the time you kind of just want to be sad. And I completely understand that. It's completely fair, and I'm not saying it's bad to be sad once in a while. But people that struggle with depression, a lot of them who aren't using drugs or gamblers or other sorts of people who rely on somewhat degenerate behavior, I genuinely think that they would be better off if they at least tried what I'm talking about, where you tell yourself that you can actually be happy. And once you accept that you're actually able to be happy, you will live a better life. Now, what am I trying to get at? Right, this video, this lady. What is the point of living? There's a variety of points. It comes down to taking a deep look at yourself. As I mentioned before, you have to identify who you are, not just your name. You have to identify who you are. What does your brain enjoy doing? What is it that when you do it, you feel good? It could be expressing yourself. It could be painting. It could be yoga. It could be going for a run. It could be doing math. It could be eating. It could be sleeping. It could be socializing. It could be any of those things and a shit ton more. Whatever you like to do, remember that you like to do it. Don't just remember your embarrassing moments back in high school. Don't just focus on whatever it is that you've got due next week that's stressing you out and your hair is falling out. Just focus on what you like. When you're on the clock, you can focus on the thing that you have to do. When you're off the clock, you should be yourself. Whatever your brain wants to do, let it do it. Whatever you want to do. You could be lazy. You could play video games. I mean, League of Legends, really? Come on, you can do better than that. But, yeah, you can play video games even, and you will be fine. You will have a great time. Just enjoy it. Note yourself. You're playing this game. Why am I playing it? Because I want to. Is that true? Yes, it's true. I want to play this video game. Okay, play the video game. Do I really want to go to the gym? Well, I want to be fit. Do you really want to be fit? Yes, I really want to be fit. Why do you want to be fit? Because I think it'll solve my dating problems. Okay, so what you really want is you want to be successful in dating. Okay. Why do you want to be successful in dating? Oh, well, I want to be successful in dating because I feel like my social life is lackluster and I'm very horny. Okay, well, I'm sure there's other ways we can go about doing this than focusing solely on getting a girlfriend. Instead, we can try and satisfy your social needs first, um, and then we can focus on getting a girlfriend. Because the social needs are much more tackleable than getting a girlfriend, right? So let's focus on making some friends first. And then once we have some people that we actually enjoy the presence of, we actually get along with, then we can focus on trying to find a sexual partner or whatever. What if you want to kill yourself? What then? Class? Any responses? What happens if you want to kill yourself? Beautiful, beautiful. Remind yourself that you only have one life. That's correct. Very good. Very good. I like the interaction. Thank you. Um, yeah, tell yourself that you only have one life. Remind yourself. I'm breathing right now. I'm thinking right now. What am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the fact that I'm breathing. I hate life. Life is terrible. Life is cruel. That's all true. That's all true. Why am I here right now? Because I was born. It's terrible that I'm destined to die. Yes, it's terrible that you're destined to die. But why do you want to die now? Oh, well, I want to die now because life is terrible. Life is cruel. Why do you think life is cruel? Because my mother was taken away from me, or I don't know, some other thing. Because rent is always due every month. Because I have to have this dead-end job that's paying terrible. Do you have to? Do you have to have that job? Is there another job you could have instead that would pay a lot better? Are you able to pursue that job? No, I'm not able to. I wanted to be a photographer, but I end up just kind of not really making it. Why did you not make it? Well, nobody really liked my photos, so I gave up. So why don't you just be a photographer because you want to be a photographer? Just take the photos, even if nobody looks at them. I don't know. I think there's a lot of ways you can have these conversations, and you can direct yourself. You need to learn to have a proper inner monologue. You need to be able to talk to yourself. You need to be able to understand yourself. If you're able to dissect yourself properly, you will never have these problems. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that. You will still struggle with them. If you came to this video and you watched the whole thing, I'm sorry that you're going through a tough time. I genuinely hope the best for you. But the only thing you have in this world is your body and your brain. Those are the only things. So you have to treat them as best you can. Your body is your only treasure. Remember that. And try to make them happy. Your goal is to make your body happy, and your goal is to make your mind happy. It sounds weird saying that, but you have to trick yourself. There's no other way of getting around it if you stayed this far. I genuinely thank you for listening and watching the video, but I hope that the things in your life that are bothering you get resolved, and I hope that this video was of some assistance to someone who needs help.